The sun beat down on parched earth. Cracks snaked across the land, a desperate cry for rain. A young mother cradled her child, their eyes hollow with hunger. This is not a scene from a dystopian future, but our present reality in a world grappling with scarcity. Water, once abundant, is now a luxury. Food, the very essence of life, is increasingly scarce. Competition for dwindling resources fuels conflicts, turning neighbors into rivals and nations into adversaries. The fabric of our global community is stretched thin, threatening to unravel entirely. The pursuit of endless economic growth has brought us to this precipice. We have exploited the Earth's resources with reckless abandon, consuming far beyond our planet's capacity to regenerate. Our insatiable appetite for fossil fuels has polluted the air we breathe and warmed the planet to a dangerous degree. We have disrupted the delicate balance of nature, pushing ecosystems to the brink of collapse. The consequences are all around us. Extreme weather events, droughts, floods, wildfires are becoming more frequent and intense. Sea levels are rising, swallowing coastlines and displacing communities. The very systems that sustain life on Earth are under threat. Yet, we continue down this unsustainable path, driven by short-term profits and political expediency. We are at a crossroads, facing a choice between continuing on this path of self-destruction or forging a new path, one that prioritizes sustainability, equity, and the well-being of all. The choice is ours, but the time to act is now. We can no longer afford to ignore the warning signs flashing all around us. The future of our planet, and indeed our very survival, depends on the choices we make today. We must break free from the grip of greed and apathy that has brought us to this point. We must embrace a new paradigm, one that recognizes the interconnectedness of all life and the finite limits of our planet. The deafening roar of explosions echoes across the barren landscape. It is a sound that has become all too familiar in our world, a grim soundtrack to human conflict. But the devastation wrought by explosive weapons extends far beyond the immediate carnage. It leaves behind a toxic legacy that poisons the environment and exacerbates the very crises we face. From the battlefields to the testing grounds, these weapons leave an indelible mark on our planet. Every explosion releases a cocktail of harmful pollutants into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, methane, and black carbon-potent greenhouse gases accelerate global warming. Toxic residues seep into the soil and water, poisoning ecosystems and jeopardizing human health. The use of depleted uranium munitions leaves behind radioactive contamination that can linger for centuries, rendering vast areas uninhabitable. The impact on Earth's temperature is undeniable. The heat generated by explosions, combined with the release of greenhouse gases, contributes directly to global warming. This, in turn, fuels extreme weather events, creating a vicious cycle of destruction. The irony is tragically clear. The very weapons we wield in the name of security are undermining the very foundations of our planet's life support systems. We cannot ignore the inextricable link between conflict, environmental degradation, and climate change. They are not separate issues, but interconnected facets of a single crisis. Addressing one requires addressing all. We must break free from the cycle of violence and militarism that perpetuates these problems. We need a global shift towards diplomacy, conflict resolution, and demilitarization. We need to invest in peace, not war, and redirect resources towards addressing the root causes of conflict, poverty, inequality, and resource scarcity. The mercury climbs higher, shattering temperature records year after year. Glaciers, once mighty rivers of ice, dwindle and retreat at an alarming rate. The polar ice caps melt, sending their icy grip on our planet's poles into a state of rapid decline. The evidence is irrefutable. Our planet is heating up, and human activity is the primary culprit. The burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas releases massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases trap heat, causing the Earth's temperature to rise. Deforestation, driven by agricultural expansion and logging, exacerbates the problem by removing trees, which absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The consequences of our actions are already being felt around the world. Rising temperatures fuel extreme weather events, making them more frequent and intense. Heat waves scorch cities, pushing human tolerance to the limit. Droughts parch farmlands, threatening food security. Wildfires rage across continents, fueled by dry conditions and tinder-dry vegetation. The delicate balance of nature is disrupted, threatening ecosystems and the services they provide. As the planet warms, sea levels rise, threatening coastal communities and infrastructure. The oceans absorb much of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases, leading to ocean acidification, which harms marine life and disrupts delicate ecosystems. The impacts of climate change are interconnected and far-reaching, affecting every aspect of life on Earth. The wind howls, a terrifying symphony of destruction. Rain lashes down in torrents, overwhelming rivers and inundating cities. Wildfires rage out of control, consuming everything in their path. These are not scenes from disaster movies. They are the increasingly common realities of a world grappling with the consequences of climate change. Natural disasters, once rare occurrences, have become more frequent and intense. The link to human activity is undeniable. Rising temperatures fuel extreme weather events, pushing them beyond their historical norms. Hurricanes gain strength over warmer waters, unleashing their fury on coastal communities. Droughts persist for longer periods, turning fertile lands into arid wastelands. The human toll of these disasters is immeasurable. Lives are lost, homes destroyed, and communities displaced. The economic costs are staggering, as billions of dollars are spent on disaster relief and rebuilding efforts. Yet these costs pale in comparison to the human suffering inflicted by these events. The frequency and intensity of natural disasters serve as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet's systems and the consequences of our actions. We cannot continue to treat the Earth as an inexhaustible resource, to be exploited without consequence. The time for complacency is long gone. We must act now to mitigate the worst effects of climate change and build resilience against the inevitable impacts we will face. The path we are on is unsustainable. We cannot continue to consume and pollute as if there were no tomorrow. The good news is that we have the power to change course, but it requires a fundamental shift in our thinking and our actions. We must move away from our obsession with endless economic growth and embrace a more sustainable and equitable model of development. Individuals have a crucial role to play in this transition. We can reduce our carbon footprint by adopting sustainable practices in our daily lives. We can choose energy-efficient appliances, reduce our reliance on cars, and opt for public transportation or cycling whenever possible. We can make conscious consumer choices, supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability and ethical practices. Governments and policymakers must take bold action to address climate change and environmental degradation. They must implement policies that promote renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainable transportation. They must invest in research and development of clean technologies and create incentives for businesses to adopt sustainable practices. International cooperation is essential to address these global challenges. We need a collective effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, protect our planet's biodiversity, and ensure a sustainable future for all. This requires strengthening international agreements, promoting technology transfer, and providing financial assistance to developing countries to support their transition to a low-carbon economy. We stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in human history. The choices we make today will determine the fate of our planet and future generations. We can choose the path of inaction, continuing down the road of environmental destruction and societal collapse. Or we can choose the path of hope, embracing the challenges before us with courage, determination, and a collective spirit of cooperation. The consequences of inaction are too dire to contemplate. Unmitigated climate change will lead to more frequent and intense natural disasters, widespread food and water shortages, mass displacement, and social unrest. The very fabric of our civilization is at risk, but there is still hope. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the resources to avert the worst-case scenarios. What we need now is the political will and the collective action to make it happen. We must demand more from our leaders, holding them accountable for their promises and pushing them to take bold action. We must mobilize our communities, raise awareness, and inspire others to join the fight for a sustainable future. The time for incremental change is over. We need a transformative shift in our values, our priorities, and our way of life. We must recognize that we are not separate from nature, but a part of it. We must learn to live in harmony with our planet, respecting its limits and nurturing its bounty. The future of humanity depends on it.